Hello everyone, thank you for watching Truth Talks TV. I am your host, Katarina Illick, along with my incredible straight talking guest here, Elliott Hulse. Thank you, Elliott, for joining me. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. This is pretty cool.
So for those of the people out there who might not know who you are, I think a lot of people know of you out in the cyber world, but you are a professional strongman, a strength coach, speaker, father, husband, all these really, awesome roles that you take on. Often people have this misconception, right, that a guy who works out a ton is just, kind of a meathead, and you've got these profound things to share, and these insights that you share along with not just things that have to do with strength training, but just these life lessons and just inspirational messages. So how did all of that kind of start and evolve, I guess?
Well, I owned a gym, and I trained athletes and did some boot camps and stuff, and that was about a year after YouTube came about. And I figured a good way to bring more clients in would be to film some of the workouts. So I put up my camera and I filmed some of the workouts, me coaching the people, and I realized immediately that, whoa, I'm getting comments from Siberia, from India, from China. It's it was crazy. Granted, the internet is still fairly new. So 5, 6, 7 years ago, that was astonishing. There was no Facebook back then. So to get feedback from somebody that lives on the other side of the world was pretty cool. So I basically just started interacting with those people by asking them questions on my strength training channel, and I'm answering their questions, and it just turned into where now I'm uploading at least one video a day specifically for strength training, building your body and stuff like that. But also, when you start to answer those questions, people will ask you questions about what do I do about my girlfriend dumping me? What do I do? My dad wants me to go to college, and I would rather ride bikes, So I wanted to answer those questions. I wanted to offer some ideas. So I created a separate channel where I just offer, and I don't have the right answers, nor do I ever claim to, but just offer insights, ideas that might be resourceful for mainly young men to navigate their life and become what I call the strongest version of themselves. So it goes beyond just building a bigger, stronger body, but having the character associated with living a magnificent life in all regards.
You actually just did a recent one I think I saw where it was everything out there. You have all the answers within yourself, everything out there, any resources just pointing you to look at what you already know.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest, there are some core issues that seem to come up, and a lot of them can be found in just basic characterological issues, and one of them is not trusting yourself. Right. I noticed that a lot of the questions, the content is not nearly as important as the context. Where are you coming from with this question is always what I want to ask. I always want to know, okay, so you're asking me this question about your girlfriend, but it's why do you need to ask me that question? Because apparently the answer is pretty obvious, and it's because we don't trust ourselves. We've been taught to look for an expert or a teacher or a parent or some sort of patriarchal figure to grant us permission to be who we want to be. So I'm often reiterating the fact that you guys are powerful, you're strong, you're already the strongest version of yourself. You just got to get out of your own way and trust yourself.
What is strength really? Because that's what your whole message is, not just in strength training and in your body, but in all of your life, being the strongest version of yourself. What is that really, and how does somebody cultivate that?
Well, about 3-4 years ago, I got involved in the sport of strongman. So if anybody's not familiar with that, that's if you ever watch ESPN on Christmas at midnight, you'll see these giant men flipping tractor tires and picking up big cement stones and pulling trucks. So it's a really off-the-wall, crazy sport designed to express your strength. And I got addicted to it. I started doing it. I was really good. I was winning. Yeah. And I was slated to be the strongest in America at my weight class. And I injured myself just a few weeks before going into that contest. And the minute that my bicep popped, I knew that it was time for a new version of myself to be born, because I realized how imbalanced my life had become because of this obsession with building more muscle, getting stronger, achieving more. And you know, my story is a metaphor for how we all tend to go about our lives. It's more, bigger, better, more successful, more money, whatever the case may be. For me, it was just a bigger, stronger body that wins at flipping tires. And when I popped my bicep, it was almost like when in the old cowboy movies, when a horse breaks his leg, they have to take the gun and put him out of his misery. And I went through a period of pain associated with killing that character. And if you're familiar with like what a phoenix does, you know, it burns and then rises. I think we all have the capacity to be born again, right? And that's also a very difficult thing to do. So I literally had to kill one character to be born again. And I was born again with the realization, and I formulated this over the years, that strength is found in 4 layers.
Okay.
What I call the 4 layers of strength. And these 4 layers all contribute to you becoming the strongest version of yourself. And the first and most superficial, it's really the outer layer of our strength, is what's happening here. You know, do you want to lose weight? Do you want to gain weight? Do you want to, what I typically invite people to do is to improve your posture. How are you carrying your body? I call that neuromuscular strength. Our body is a physical manifestation of what's happening at the far deeper levels. So one level deeper than the physical manifestation, you know, how you're carrying yourself, the look in your eye, the glimmer in your smile, is a expression of the second layer, which is our physiological strength. Physiological strength is basically how well you're taking care of your digestive system, your endocrine system, your hormones, the things that are happening internally. These are the internal systems of the body that need to be considered. You know, you can work yourself to the bone, but if you're eating poorly, not in the bodybuilding sense of eating poorly, like, you know, how to gain weight or lose weight, but if you're just filling your body with poor quality foods, things that detract from your energy, then you're never really going to become the strongest version of yourself. One step below that, and I use that term below, but it's almost like one step above that, is energetic strength, right? It's really the one that matters more than anything. It's what's happening here. What's happening here, what's happening at a root psychological, emotional level. You know, if you're mentally stressed, it's going to manifest itself physiologically, because your hormones will be off. Too much cortisol, adrenaline. You're going to be burnt out. You're going to have stage 3 adrenal fatigue. You're going to be a mess. And if you got adrenal fatigue, there's no way that you're going to be burning fat in the gym. So we've got to consider, well, what's happening here? What is your life like? How are you thinking about your circumstances? And then finally, the 4th layer is, what are you going to do now? Because really, all this growing stronger can become a bit narcissistic if we don't realize that, well, you're going to die, and how many people are you helping along the way? And I call that presentable strength, and it's a play on words, because it's how we offer ourselves as a stronger version, as a present to the world. How are you serving others? And presentable in the same way. Well, how are people perceiving you? Because make no bones about it, the way you offer yourself to the world you'll always get a mirror reflection. So really, it's going out now. It's going out and serving others.
Right. Why do you think, you just said about being reborn constantly, like dying, you showed that example in your own life, like dying to rebirth a new version of yourself. Why are people so afraid of dying? It's almost like we're so attached, not dying like literally dying, but dying like we can die daily, right? And like be reborn and born anew every day. And it's just like we're so afraid and attached to that, attached to or afraid of letting it go. It's like, where does that come from? Because it's a natural process, isn't it? To just be like, it's a constant, but...
Yeah, we become personally identified with who we've been told we are. And I think that's what it stems from. I think it stems from living in a world where everyone wants concreteness. They want to know. They want to know you're Katerina, and you've got long hair, and this is what you're like. Good, I got you. I put you in a box. You know, we live in this really reductionistic science has afforded us so much because of our ability to reduce into pieces, right? So now we've got atomic science, and you know, if you go dig even deeper, you've got quantum science, where now it's like, okay, shit, we don't know anything. We've been able to reduce things down to such an ability, to such a degree that we can manipulate our environment. It has afforded us the world that we live in. It's given us the opportunity to speak as we are from across the world through bits, right? Through the computer, through the internet. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. The problem is human beings aren't that easy. You can't break us down. But we, in order to navigate the world, in order to be able to deal with people socially, we start creating categories for people. We start trying to break them down. You're a this, boom, gotcha. You're a this, boom, gotcha. I mean, it's really a form of prejudice. You know, it might not be based on color, but it's based on, boom, I got you. I figured you out. That's where you belong.
I know who you are, right?
And you make everyone else very uncomfortable when you step outside the box that they put you in.
Yeah.
We put people in boxes. And the minute you step outside that box, your mom goes, that's not the Elliott I know. Is everything all right with you? You're acting more like Bobby. Or, you see what I'm saying? Like that, you know, you're not yourself. What exactly does that mean, I'm not myself? It begins that early, where your parents want to be able to label you, pinpoint you. Boom, I gotcha. And then you go into school and people figure you're a jock, or you're a nerd, or you're a this, or you're a that. But the minute you step outside of that, what are you, a sellout? What are you selling? People give that to me a lot, because you know, I've got very strong convictions, and I'll just change my fucking mind. You're like, you're such a sellout. You're a sellout. Well, cool. Call me a sellout. The problem is, you thought you knew me. You thought you could pin me down, but I changed my mind. And we've got to be courageous enough to deal with other people's criticisms when we decide to change our mind, when we decide to be born again, when we decide to do something different.
Yes.
They're very comfortable because they know how to deal with us in that box. They know who you are.
Right.
But if you start acting, speaking, doing things differently, you've just thrown their game off. Well, I don't know how to talk to you anymore. I don't know. I can't expect you to be there for me on Friday evenings when we go and have drinks.
Right.
Just messed up my life.
Right.
That. But you're also showing me how you're showing me that I'm responsible for all the dysfunction in my life. How dare you go and change to become a better version of yourself, a stronger version of yourself, because now it forces me to look at myself, and I don't want to look at myself. You're a bastard.
Yes. That is so, I mean, it's like we are this energy, this vibration, and we're constantly flowing and moving if we allow ourselves to, right? If we're not so tied to this idea of ourselves or idea of others. But yeah, I've noticed that people are afraid of, it's like it kind of threatens their very belief system or whatever, their security, if you are now, oh, today I'm this. I actually just had a conversation recently with somebody, and she was, because I was telling her that I have the feeling, the heart conviction that I'm going to be moving to LA soon. And she was telling me, oh, okay, that's cool. But, you know, I had a friend who moved to LA, and you know, we're from Chicago, and we drink beer, and she's all like now, oh, I don't drink beer, and she was making it seem like because her friend moved to LA, now she's a different person, now she's fake. And it's like,
right.
Is she fake, or is she just now maybe just an expanded, different version of herself? Like, why is that a bad thing?
No, it's wonderful. It's what the world does. You know, I'm sitting here looking at trees outside, and the trees are constantly changing. The colors of the leaves are changing. The way it's growing is changing. The type of water that it's receiving changes its physiology and the way it expresses itself. Nature is constantly moving. We're the ones who have become rooted in ideas, really.
Right, exactly. So one of the videos that you've done that one of the first ones that I saw that I absolutely love was you talked about creating a non-job resume, and you went through this whole process, and I just thought it was so brilliant about, you said, love something, share what you love, receive the love. And you present it in such a way that it's very simple, and it is really quite simple, right?
It is.
But it's almost like I could feel, first of all, within myself, but I'm sure I could feel it for others who might be watching that or hearing something like that and go, okay, well, wait, it's not that easy. You know, like, how do I actually implement this? How do I actually do this? Because probably some people are saying, I am doing what I love, but I'm not receiving the money, or I'm not receiving the love. So can you share a little bit about that and elaborate, you know, because this is what you've sort of done, right, in your own life?
Yeah. You know, doing things is always easy, especially when it's presented. You know, step one, step two, step three. Becoming someone different, that's where the challenge is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not so much this is actually more difficult than it sounds. It's, okay, now you need to get out of your way and allow that to happen.
Mm.
So that's why it seems far more difficult than it really is. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a process of self-education. There's a process of determination and discipline and consistency, all of which are character virtues.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you disciplined? Are you committed? Are you courageous? These are all things that they're not written on the board. They're what you have to become.
Right.
Become courageous to make this shit work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that this doesn't work. It's that you need to grow stronger so you
Mm-hmm.
can allow it to work.
Mm-hmm.
The mechanics of the situation, the mechanics of whatever it is that we do is important, but really it's so prevalent. How to do things. There's no shortage of how to do things. How-to books, internet websites. What I've committed to do with the Non-Job Revolution and website is to just show you how, because I know that's not the issue. We tend to attach to the how, like the how is like that's really if I knew how, but I know that it's like look, I'll show you how.
Yeah.
That's the issue. Then I'll show you everything you need to do. The problem is you.
Right.
So it's an invitation. It's two things. It's an invitation to grow stronger, right? And I use many different metaphors to inspire people to do this so that they can support what's happening on Earth. I mean, we're evolving at a tremendous rate because of the internet. Ideas are being shared and remixed and growing and growing and growing. You need to be a part of it, especially if you have something to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an invitation to become a different type of person, or the type of person that can do that. And it's also a place where you can learn the mechanics of it. The receiving of the money is always the hardest part, not because it's hard to set up the construct to receive money. It's because you've got money hang-ups. You don't believe you deserve it.
Right.
You feel guilty
Right.
asking for money.
Mm.
So the mechanics of how to receive money, it's not very difficult. It's very easy, actually. But the character associated with, look, first of all, you do deserve this because you're offering a tremendous service to people. Are you helping people? That's the very first thing that you've got to ask yourself. Are you putting in? Yes, I'm helping people. The people are telling me how much they're helping me. I am putting my heart and soul into this. Good.
Mm.
Now, are you the type of character that's courageous enough to say, can I receive back? The world's not going to say, here, let me give it to you. The world will suck you dry if you let it suck you dry.
Mm.
You give, and you'll end up with nothing. That's fine if you want to be that type of person, but you're not going to be of any use to anyone because eventually you're going to grow resentful of it.
Right.
And you're not going to have enough, and you're not going to have food to feed yourself so that you can keep doing it.
Right.
So you've got to tell yourself a story, which is, all I'm doing is setting up the natural flow by which I can continue to serve you by you serving me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And you have to ask for the money.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's all comes down to self-worth a lot of times, that core belief and issue of self-worth, like you said, deserving it. It's perfect because the whole non-job thing, because it's like, why really the traditional, as you said, the traditional American path is bullshit. Why is that? I mean, I believe it. I see it, but I think a lot of people out there still don't.
Have you read anything by Seth Godin?
Not too much. Not too much.
Okay.
I mean, I know of him, but
he's fun. He's one of my favorite authors to read with regard to entrepreneurship. He even goes as far as, I mean, he's so poetic with the entire thing that he calls it art. And really what we're doing is we're creating art. One of the things that he's brought to my attention, and this is not because he's brilliant, it's just because I didn't know, is that the contemporary school systems that we go through in the Western world, really the world at large, but mainly in the West, has been designed out of the needs of the Industrial Revolution, where they needed man-body hours.
Yeah.
So what you got to do is you got to create really good cogs to fit into this economic system, right? Where you've got people who are dependent on a paycheck and are willing to just put their head down and do mechanical work for a competence. And it really it reduces you to a machine. It reduces you down to a cog in a system, because human beings are far more creative than just putting together pieces on an assembly line. Here's the thing, that worked. That worked for many generations. You know what I mean? I mean, the world that we know it, especially in the United States, is a byproduct of the Industrial Revolution, in that factories and factory workers built this country. But the world has changed. The Industrial Revolution is over. The type of jobs that people had back then, just look at the city of Detroit. They don't exist any longer, or there are other developing countries that were where we were 100 years ago that we can find cheap labor for. We live in a more creative, more sensitive, more spiritual time. It's not so much how much can you do, because you can do shit and the value of it is very low. And as is evident, those jobs they're becoming fewer and fewer and fewer.
Right.
But at the same time, what's emerging is a brand new creative connection economy that's associated with art, like Seth Godin would call it, and sharing and communication. The more you can share, the more you can grow as an individual, and the more you can share, the greater. That's the commodity. That's what's valuable today. Ideas is what's valuable today. So the problem is that the school systems are still designed off the old Industrial Revolution model, you know, where everything is standardized. Will you be a good cog for the system? And they've really reduced the creativity and the individuality and the godlike expression in every human being by making us sit in rows and follow directions and become standardized.
Yes. Yes. What you go back to is doing what you love, like following, having that courage to follow your heart, really, and to not fall into that trap. I mean,
that's it. It takes courage. A part of what the Industrial Revolution and just the culture at large, for many different reasons, has done is it has alienated us from ourselves. So you literally have to stifle the heart and the sexuality in a human being's body in order to get him to sit as like a Pavlov's dog and to respond to bells and whistles, right? You know, these bells go off and we go to our places, you know what I'm saying? We're very easily conditioned because we've been castrated from our bodies and we're way up in our heads. So what ends up happening is, first of all, we're taught not to trust our hearts. We're taught not to trust our sexuality. So you're battling against culture, because culture wants you up in your head, because I ring a bell in your head, you'll respond. It's far easier to respond to control someone by their head than someone in their balls. You know what I mean when I say that? Someone who's moving from, you know, deep-rooted emotion. That's a wild, hysterical character. You don't want to fuck with that guy because he's nuts. Compared to, you know, someone who's very easily manipulated. So there's the culture that you're fighting against, but then there's also you now have become schizoid. You become schizophrenic because there's a part of you that really does exist, and it's a brilliant, brilliant part of you. It's the part of you that beats your heart without you having to think about it. It's the part of a woman that grows a baby without her having to do it. It's a part of you that digests your food, assimilates, and eliminates waste from your body. It's the part of you that your intuition lies in, everything. It's all in this part of our body that we've rejected. So when you ask most young people who've rejected all the brilliance that's within them, you ask them, well, what do you want to do? They have no clue. And if the feelings do come up in their body, like, yeah, I really do want to do blank, but because the head is, you know, there's cognitive dissonance, the head is fighting the body, there's this doubt. You know, everyone tells me I can't do it. It's weird. No one else has done it. It's brand new.
I won't make money doing it. There's no money in that.
So the invitation is in a way to reject the conditioning of society, regain the connection with your heart, and then learn to follow it.
What does it mean? You say that a lot. What does it mean to breathe into your balls then? And then can women do it?
Yeah, I say breathe into your balls because it really, when I say balls, I mean the roots through which your sexual energy, which is, if you study Freud, he called it the libido. And if you study like Qigong, Tai Chi, they call this the lower Dantian. And this is where like the true human energy comes from, down between like about 2 inches below your belly button. They called it the lower Dantian. It's your bio battery. It's what fuels so many of your hormones are produced in that area. Your sex hormones and your adrenal hormones. I mean, they're all centered around the hips. The thing is that to access that particular part of you, you've got to have soft musculature so that you can breathe deep into your body. Breathing in so many ways ignites our physiology. It not only brings oxygen in for your blood to transport, but it also, if you're soft enough, and this is what I invite people to do through the things that I teach, if you're soft enough, your diaphragm drops down where it pushes your belly and your organs out. If you watch a baby breathe, its belly does this.
Right.
And it stimulates, it literally massages everything from the pelvic floor up through the entire abdominal cavity. It massages and stimulates the hormonal production. It adds to your ability to digest and assimilate food. I mean, we are breathing creatures. Right. When the ancients wrote the story about creation, they said that the God breathed into clay, breathed into the dirt. We're literally breath and dirt. And we've kind of created a situation where, because we're so much up in our heads, we create what I call neurotic holding patterns. And you know that these holding patterns are evident when you look at someone's body and they're clenched, they're holding their hands tight, they're chewing their face, they got like nervous tics.
Yeah.
If you take notice, if you're holding your belly tight so that you don't breathe deep, people who are figuratively but literally tight asses are sucking their cheeks together and sucking their anus up. Just think about that area again. If you're holding your belly tight and you're holding your ass up, the entire pelvic floor the energy is being stifled. Yeah. If you're always grinding your teeth, right? If you're always thinking and that's causing tension in your head and your face, you cannot soften enough to allow full, what Wilhelm Reich called, respiratory wave. This is what it looks like when a baby breathes. It's a wave. So what I invite you to do, what I invite people to do, because I'm an exercise specialist and I also seek to support people in growing stronger in all areas of their life, which means that your body, again, is a physical manifestation of what's happening psychologically, is to stop being so tense.
Right.
And there are exercises that help reduce the tension across the eyes, across the jaw, across the chest, across the belly, and the pelvic floor, all of which are extra-respiratory muscles. Wow. So when you breathe into your balls, it literally means you're soft enough to breathe deep.
Yeah. And you've said, actually, Father, Son, Holy Spirit.
Yeah, you caught that?
I love that. I never, I guess, would have thought of that. Because we need them all, of course, but it's like, do you see it as coming more from that place of spirit, though, first, out to the mind, or how would you relate the three?
There needs to be and that's why we do Father, Son, Holy Ghost. That's why there is, in all traditions, there's this triad of understanding. If you study like the Kahuna model in Hawaii, there's the father, the mother, and the child. Right? There always seems to be this three. I'm trying to think of other examples. But if you study physiology, you recognize that physically, within the brain, there are three brains. We literally have three brains. We've got our neocortex, which is kind of the brain that we use to create language and technology. You know, the brain that allows us to go to the moon. It's this deductive reasoning brain that has given us science and technology. But just below it, we have the limbic system. We've got the cortex, which is our heart brain, but it's in the head. But this is or you would also call it the mammalian brain. Neo-mammalian or neocortex, mammalian. Okay. This mammalian brain is the same brain that animals, but mammal type animals have. It's associated with warm feelings, with connecting with one another, with love, with community.
Yeah.
And then there's that reptilian brain, that brain stem, right? We call that the medulla down into the brain stem. This is our reptilian brain. This is the ball's brain. This is the one that's associated with sexuality and safety. You know, they call it a reptilian brain because alligators, you know, all it's thinking about is eating and screwing. And that's like our root brain. That's the brain that extends itself down into our peripheral nervous system, which is all down here, right? When we say I'm thinking, we're doing this, neocortex. When we're saying we're feeling, we're doing this.
Right.
It's the heart brain, it's the cortex, you know, Father, Son. They call Jesus the Son, right? Heart. The Holy Spirit is that which guides us that we don't see.
Right.
That which guides us. Who's beating your heart?
Right.
Who's digesting your food? Right. Who's dilating your eyes? Who's helping the bowels move down there? Who's doing that? That Spirit, that Holy Spirit. And this is just a metaphor that the ancients used that we can see parallels to in regard to the science that we use today to explain everything. Right. But it's there. Right. So, and I'm a bit of a poet if you haven't figured it out. But when I tend to think we lost the meaning of a lot of the brilliance, the poetic meaning that's pointing to the scientific reality that we use today. Right. Yeah.
Which is all inside of us, really, and like you said, pointing back to really what's all within us. So.
Yeah, the Son and the Holy Spirit are also there. It's associated with emotion, feeling, love, and down within us, it's that intuition. It's that you that does the things you need done without you having to do it.
And you shared recently, I love this too, and I actually thought of you this weekend. It's so crazy because you shared in a video about, and this is so beautiful that you, again, as a big tough guy, right, shared this about crying and the importance and just the beautiful power that is crying and not holding it back, and how it's actually unnatural when we try to hold it back. And I don't have a problem, you know, women don't have a problem with crying.
You're softer.
Yeah, right. I mean, we don't have, I can cry, you know, of course, but usually it's on my own that I don't have a problem with crying. And this weekend I had an opportunity when I met with a friend, a dear friend of mine, another woman as well, and we were getting into some things that we were feeling and stuff, and she started tearing up and she was holding back. And I just said to her simply, I said, and we were in Starbucks, and how afraid are we, right, of crying in public and stuff like that, right? Like, what will people think? Will people, you know, will we make people uncomfortable? Oh, yeah. And I said to her, you know, it's okay. Go ahead and cry. And she just let it out, and she was like, thank you. And then I was crying with her, and it was just the most beautiful thing. We were just bawling in the middle of Starbucks. I mean, it was amazing.
That's great.
I mean, what is it that really happens when we cry? Like, why is it so important?
Well, one of the things that, if you ever study the work of Wilhelm Reich, he's an interesting guy. He's a crazy bad scientist, but a lot of the things that he said brought to this day the somatic psychology, the mind-body stuff that we've grown so fascinated with. He's really one of the first guys to bring these ideas to the West. In the East, they've always had yoga. They've always had qigong, tai chi. They understood that the mind and body were the same, and you don't train the mind without considering the body. One of the things that he recognized, and even like this is well recognized in the East also, especially through the tantric tradition, is that the sexual orgasm is the perfect assessment of the health, the psychological and physical health, the combination of it, the yoking of the mind and body in an individual, right? And he studied the orgasm, the physical orgasm, when you would have sex and you would orgasm. And he noticed that there was an energy associated, a movement of energy in the body associated with full orgastic release. That's what he called it. That also showed up when we cry and when we laugh. And when you think about what makes human beings, it's that we cry, we laugh, and we orgasm. And he named this. If you study like the traditions of the East, they would call this chi. How the energy in the body is being used, how it's being expressed. Freud started moving in this direction, and he called it libido. But it was a very crude time, and he kind of had to back off. But he had a crazy student named Reich, who he took it and ran, and he called it orgone. He called it orgone. But really, it's sexual energy in the body. The same energy that is released when we cry is the same type of energy that we experience when we orgasm. There are certain conditions that are necessary for orgasm, and one of them, which is the toughest one for all of us, it's tougher for men than women. Like you said, women are generally softer. They can allow their bodies more, especially a woman who can orgasm. The woman who can orgasm, who has great sex and orgasms freely, is a woman that knows how to let go. Easier for women because it's in their nature to soften in order to invite in sexually. Men, we stiffen. So it's this idea of letting go that's so difficult, and when we physically hold on. So when you notice your friend about to cry, the chin might be rippling. You feel it. Just notice next time you're about to cry, you feel it all from your jaw right down into your heart. It's this area that's associated with crying. Interesting thing, this area, when we stifle it in order to hold back our tears, we're also holding back some of the most sexually absorbing areas of our body. Think about this area, and our mouth and our jaw and our heart. How sexual this area is in bringing in warm feelings.
Yeah.
So if you become accustomed to chronically holding in your tears, you're also setting yourself up for holding in your ability to release sexually and have full orgastic release. There's this tie that goes between them. Laughter also. If you notice how a child laughs, its belly is just hurting, its whole body laughs. Like very rarely do you find adults that really laugh, not just giggle. Everything is just, you let go. You go into literally a laughter orgasm if you watch children sometimes. It's that same energy. So joy, pleasure, softness, receiving, they're all very feminine traits, and they're all ones that require yin, yielding, letting go. That's our biggest problem, is letting go.
Yeah. And so this is good. This is an exercise in it, is to notice when you want to cry, let it go, because I think it's all this energy and motion, right? It's all the flow of the energy through us. And I think as humans, we think, well, the laughing is a good thing, but the crying is a bad thing. So I can't let that flow through me, but you got to let it all flow through you. It's like
the same channel. If you stuff up that channel, you're stuffing it all up.
Yes, right. So is there any last words of Elliott wisdom you'd like to share with us?
Trusting yourself. It's such a difficult thing, but it's really the main message in all of this. It's that there is a you, that same you that I spoke about, that beats your heart and that digests your food, that grows babies inside you. There's a you that is profoundly, magnificently brilliant. It's where the heart, it's where the Son and the Holy Ghost lie. It's down within your body. You've got to be able to let go and trust your body. That's where your genius is going to come from. That's where the strongest version of you lies. You can't do the strongest version of you. You've got to allow the strongest version of you. And that requires courage. It requires trusting yourself. And that's the main invitation.
This is beautiful. You are poetic, Elliott. Look at that. Yeah. Thank you so much. Where can people, your website is hulsestrength.com, right?
I'm having ElliottHulse.com worked on, but eventually that will be one that you can go to. But my YouTube channels are where I'm usually answering questions and sharing ideas like this. So I've got two channels. One is Strength Camp, strength like muscle, camp like you're camping. The other one is Elliott Said What. So my name, Elliott Said What, and you could just probably Google those and they'll pop up.
Okay, great, and I'll include all the links and the details as well in the post. So Thank you so much, Elliott, for spending time with me and sharing and flowing. It's beautiful. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure.